Hey everyone, Knowledge here with Reach Your Summit. Thanks for joining me. Had a lot of you asking me questions after recently posting some pictures of a new tent that I picked up for this year. That tent is the REI Co-op Flash Air 1 tent. So in this video, I'm going to show you a closer look at the tent. We'll go over the specs, the features, the setup, and just overall give you a closer look at this brand new tent for 2020. Now, some of you might be asking, what happened to my hammock system that I just put a video up on recently? Nothing happened to that hammock system. In fact, I'm going to be using that a lot this year. I'm very happy with it so far. I've found it very comfortable. I just used it on my Tully Trail trip, which I put a video up of recently. As many of you know, I am always looking at purchasing new gear. Things that intrigue me personally, things that might be relevant to this channel, and I'm always looking at refining my gear list and trying new things out. And I like to purchase gear just so I can provide honest and authentic feedback to you, the viewer, and to all of the thru hikers and clients that I work with on Reach Your Summit's group trips. Now, I personally find this tent to be fairly comparable in price and weight to the Six Moon Designs Lunar Solo, which I do have a video of on this YouTube channel as well, so check that out if you're interested in that specific tent. The other tent that this is very comparable to is the Tarp Tent Notch. Just to note before we get into the contents of this and we go through the setup, I do not have any personal use with this tent yet. So this is more a video showing you a first look at the tent. As I do get more experience using it out in various conditions, I will put something else up going over my experience with how the tent performed. Or if you have any questions leading up to that video, please feel free to get in touch with me. I'll definitely be happy to answer any questions that you have to the best of my ability. So let's get into the contents of the tent. So this is the REI Co-op Flash Air 1 tent. The total packaged weight on my scale was 1 pound 10.5 ounces. The minimum trail weight is exactly as what's listed here on the packaging. 1 pound 4 ounces was what I had on my scale. And the minimum trail weight is basically getting rid of all of these stuff sacks of the tent, and in this case also getting rid of the pole. This is a tent that comes with poles that you can use, and there is also an option to use the trekking pole, which we will go into in just a little bit. This tent does not come with a footprint, but you can purchase the REI Co-op Flash Air 1 tent footprint separately. That goes for $44.95 and weighs 3.5 ounces. The total cost of this tent is $250. And there is also a Flash Air 2 tent available for $300. For the footprint, you could also use some Tyvek or Polycro if you want to keep it relatively light. In my case here for this video, I'm just going to be using a reflective emergency space blanket. So this is what you get with the Flash Air 1 tent. This tent does use a single wall construction design, very similar to the Six Moon Designs Lunar Solo. The fabric of this tent reminds me of the REI-2. That was a tent that came out a few years ago, but this fabric is going to be very thin. It's a polyurethane coated ripstop nylon. It feels like they're using a 15 denier fabric for the floor and for the rest of the tent body itself. The mesh on the tent is a little bit thicker, so I'm guessing that they're using a 20 denier. Don't hold me to that. I couldn't find any specs on the website. That's what it feels like to me. It is a little bit more burlier. This is great because you don't want this to be tearing on you. You don't want to have any issues with abrasions or holes. And I think the footprint of this tent, if you go with their footprint, it uses a polyurethane coated 20 denier nylon. So the tent does come with DAC aluminum stakes. These are very similar to the stakes that you'll find in the REI Co-op Quarter Dome series. You get 5 of them, and then you do get some reflective guy line, so you can stake out the tent and a couple of other tie-outs that the tent has. You then get your tent poles. So this goes in the foot end. This is just a single pole of deck aluminum. The diameter that I measured was 9.5 millimeters. You get a repair sleeve. Then you have a deck aluminum pole that goes into the top of the tent and a hub. And this hub was really interesting to me when I saw it. It has one spot for the pole that it comes with, and then the other spot is for using your own trekking poles. And then you have the tent pole that comes with the tent, so you can use that along with the hub here if you didn't want to use trekking poles. I do have a couple of trekking poles too that I'm going to show you in this video, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I do have a bit of a breeze going on while I'm filming this, so that's why the footprint is blowing around everywhere. Setup for this tent is pretty simple. So to start, you want to stake out all 4 corners of this tent. Now you have 2 different tie-outs on all 4 corners of this tent. So what I'm going to be doing is staking out the gray one. The gray one goes from the tent body down near the floor. There's also another tie-out attached to what would normally be the rain fly, but in this case, because everything is sewn together, it is still going to be a separate attachment system. So I'm going to start with staking out the gray, and then we can add the orange to that same stake after. Then what I like to do is attach the tent pole for the foot box first. So there's a rounded end, and then there's the end that goes in the grommet. So the rounded end just slides right up into a sleeve right here, just like that. And then the grommet's down at the bottom, and you just pull that, and that goes in like that. Now I'll set up using the pole that comes with the tent first, and then we'll replace this pole with the trekking pole so you can see how both of them look. So to start, I'm going to open the door. Inside of here, you'll see there's a little nylon sleeve that's sewn into the top of the mesh. So I'm going to take the tent pole with the hub, and we just slide that rounded end right through the sleeve, just like that. Then on the smaller hole in the hub, we're going to attach our tent pole that comes with the tent, and that's shock corded. So all we do is we just piece it together. There's one end that has the end for the grommet, and the other end has nothing on it. This is the end that we're going to put into the hub. So once that is in, so this doesn't slide on you, there's a clip right here, and that just clips to the bottom of the hub. So I'm going to just clip this in, just like that. Then you take the bottom end and you attach it to the grommet, just like that. Now if I were to just let this go, it's gonna drop right down. So that's where our 5th and final stake comes into play. So lift this up, pull that over, and I'm going to just guy out the attachment at the end of the door here, or the vestibule. And that gives us our tent for the most part. But now I'm going to stake out those other 4 corners with the orange guy line that I had showed you. And all I do is I just take these loops and I put it on right around the stake. Again, we're going to take this orange loop here and just put it right around the stake, the same as the gray. Let's go over all of the specs. I'll show you everything else a little bit more up close. And then we'll swap that tent pole out with the trekking pole so you can see how it works in relation with that. So with any single wall tent, you're going to have some condensation. That's something that's just completely unavoidable. This being a single wall tent, you are going to have a little bit of condensation with it, just like you would with the Six Moon Designs tent or the tarp tent, or even the Hyperlight Mountain Gear Derigo 2 tent that I have a video of on this YouTube channel as well. To mitigate that, good campsite selection is always important, but along with that, this tent does have a couple of ventilation ports, which are cleverly added into this tent, in my opinion. So the first one's pretty standard to any REI tent, and that's just a simple Velcro attachment up at the top, similar to any rain fly that you have on your REI co-op tents. And that's right near the peak of the tent itself. Then as we go inside of this tent, you'll notice we have a vent right near the head of the tent, and we have a vent down near the foot of the tent. So that's going to help with the condensation as well. One thing that I find to be really nice with this tent is that the bathtub style floor is pretty high for a tent of this design. I haven't measured it yet. I will measure it at home just so I can give you a better idea of what you're looking at for the height of the bathtub floor. But it is pretty similar to the Six Moon Designs Lunar Solo. So upon looking at this tent, you do have mesh all the way on the door side of the tent or the vestibule side of the tent, and everywhere else is going to be that polyurethane coated nylon around the whole entire tent. Everything is seam taped, so you don't have to worry about waterproofing this tent at all. And there's also a small pocket here, so you could put your headlamp in there. You can put your water filter in there, your maps, anything you want. This is the only storage pocket inside of the tent. One feature that I find intriguing with this tent is that you can open up this door even more on a rainless night, still have a good amount of structure to the tent itself, and you can roll this up even more if you wanted to and get a good night view outside of the tent. This is something that I actually really appreciate. because whenever I'm in a hammock, I love that I can lay down in the hammock and just enjoy the night sky, enjoy the scenes of the forest while I'm out. And that's all part of the experience for me when I'm outdoors. So not feeling so closed into the tent when it's really nice out and being able to have that option of looking around outside is something that really appeals to me personally. The vestibule space is pretty generous in size for the tent that it is. It's 8.4 square feet. Here I just have a 28-liter pack inside of it. For many ultralighters, if you're doing just a quick overnight for, most 3-season trips, not all, probably around a pack this size anyway, like 30 to 35 liters. And for many thru hikers, you're probably between like a 40 and 55 liter pack anyway. So you do have plenty of room. You could definitely get a slightly larger pack inside of there. I can lay it down lengthwise along the ground. And I will have quite a bit of coverage over that if I did decide to do that. In the tent now, I have my favorite sleeping pad when I am using a tent, the Thermarest Neo Air X Lite. This is the one with the old valve. I don't have the wing lock valve yet. I am looking at purchasing one of those at some point. But this is the regular length, so 6 feet long and 20 inches wide. You can see I do have quite a bit of room at the end of the sleeping pad, at the head of the sleeping pad, and to the side of the sleeping pad. The length of this tent is 88 inches long by 35 inches wide near the head and 27 inches wide near the feet. Definitely more roomy and a bit longer and wider and everything than the Mountain Hardwear Ghost UL1 tent that I put a video up of, I believe about a year or two ago. I'll put a link for that tent in the video description for this video too, along with the Six Moon Designs Lunar Solo tent. So, do have a couple of inches of height above my head to move around. And with the almost completely 90-degree angle of the hub, it does give me a little bit of headroom to move around. Lengthwise, plenty of room inside of the tent. I might even be able to throw my pack in here personally. Let me show you how it looks with me inside of the tent. For a frame of reference, before I show you that, my height is 5'10" and my weight's around 155 pounds. So there, you can see my head. Still have a couple of inches above where the top of my head is to the peak of the tent. It does come pretty close to me, but I could always adjust that by shifting off to the side a bit more. So I do have a good amount of room to move my feet around, and still have a couple of inches at the end of the pad there. I don't really see the quilt or a sleeping bag having too much of an issue with touching the fabric. And I still have a couple of inches above my head too. And plenty of room to move around. And if I'm enjoying that night sky view, if it starts raining out, and here's the rest of that vestibule space. Plenty of room under there. All right, so now the trekking pole. So what I'll do is I'll take the tension off of the door here, and pull this pole out of the hub. And you take your trekking pole tip and you put it through the larger opening like that. This is a great option for many people, and I really appreciate the fact that you can use most trekking poles with this design. But you can't use all trekking poles, and you cannot use the trekking pole that I personally prefer, and I'll show you that in just a second. But in this case, I will not have any problems using this because this is an adjustable trekking pole. So the pole length has to be 105 centimeters. You can extend it to 110, but that's about the max that you can do. So we'll set it to 105. And then there's a loop down at the bottom here that's attached next to that nylon webbing. So all you do is you just slide your trekking pole grip through that, just like that. And then this rests over there again, and we can stake it out. So here it is with the trekking pole. And these poles are aluminum, and as I mentioned, they're adjustable. Now, if I adjust it to 110 centimeters, it does still work, but it does start pulling the tent body up off of the ground. As you can see, I do have a gap here. But when I lower it, that brings it right back down to the ground. So I'd say if you're using adjustable trekking poles, this is a great feature. 105 centimeters is what you're going to want to set your trekking poles to. But I personally prefer using fixed length poles, and these are 120 centimeters, and I cannot use these with this tent by using that feature. If I try to, so it will, without a doubt, it rests in the hub. There's no problems with that. But as soon as I try to raise this up, you can see already, without me even attaching it to that, it's just lifting that up and putting a lot of stress on the tent. And it's gonna rip the stakes right out of the ground. So I'm not even gonna mess with that. There you have it, a first look at the new REI Co-op Flash Air 1 tent. As I mentioned, this does also come in a 2-person option, and it uses 2 trekking poles with that specific design. I'm really looking forward to using this. I did have that minor gripe with the trekking pole, but the pole that it comes with is only an extra 2 ounces. It's not going to, make or break my base weight. My base weight is normally around 9.5 to 10.5 pounds anyway. So my first impressions with this tent are good. I really look forward to putting it out through varying conditions and seeing how it holds up this year. And I'm really excited to see REI jump into the ultralight game with everyone else and adding their unique twists to it. This could be a great option for people that are looking to get started in ultralight, or people that are on a specific budget and still want to get quality ultralight gear. If you have any further questions on this video, this tent, or any other gear in my other videos, please feel free to get in touch with me in a comment below, or you can contact me at reachyoursummit.net. I hope you found this video informative and helpful. Just wanted to give you all a closer look at it, since there's not really a lot of info out there yet on this tent. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, consider doing so, as I'm always adding new content to it. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the trail.